So in the last class, we have discussed about some of the component of management in an organization. We have also discussed about the distinction between management and administration. Okay, and we have discussed some of the approaches to understand management. Right, and those approaches involve the classical approaches as well as modern approaches in order to understand the management in an organization. We also discussed about types of organization, basically the two basic varieties of organization, formal and informal organization. Apart from that, we also have network and virtual organization, which is the concept is pretty simple, which is based on the development of technology, which doesn't have a formal structure as such, but yeah, network and virtual organization is actually informal. We can also put it in an informal organizational concept. So when we look at this organization, types of organization, we also need to know the differences and similarities between these two types of organization. Okay, the distinction between formal and non-formal or informal organizations. Okay, it's important to identify the distinctions. So it is important to identify the importance of personal bond, importance to identify the social belongingness, the social capital, which actually holds the informal organization intact, and it can also perform. Informal organization can function and perform under the shadow of formal organization, as I have already told you, right? But when you say formal organization, it has a structures and it follows all the basic principles of management. So when we say the principle of management, we actually go about the Luther Galich concept. Luther Galich, he has given a concept of a post block. So this is very, very important. So this is a concept of management known as directing, coordinating. So according to Luther Galich, management involves planning, organizing, staffing, directing, coordinating, reporting, and budgeting. Okay, so these are the basic principles of management according to Richard Allen. So there are also different scholars. They have provided different definition of management, and based on the principle, only this definition counts some of the principles. Few said that it involves only planning, organizing, and coordinations and control. And as I've already told you earlier, theories of management involve this classical theories of management involve control and you see planning and direction more. Then you see about the human relations. Human relations more in coordinations, you know. So coordination, what they usually believe in coordination is in terms of control. So control is there, and in administration, from administrative perspective also, if you look at the management of one particular organization, then we need to focus on the control aspect, because you see that unlike the private organization focus on directing and organizing, administration focus on control aspect. And the earlier concept of management, like classical concept of management, also believe more in control and direction. Direction is also one, control, command. So these are some of the principles they focus more. Unity of command is very, very important principle of management, which the earlier classical concept of management believed in. But now, as we have proceed to have a very complex organizational setup, which is interacting with the external environment, which is very hostile at times, which is very turbulent. So in that case, we need to change the whole principle of the management, and we are focusing more on, you see, coordination, and planning is always an essential part as well as organizing part. Okay, so these are somewhat low level tasks, as I have already told you. Unlike the higher level task of administration, now we are focusing more on low level task. So now there is also principle. This is called Scalar principle. Scalar principle is based on the scale of the authority. As I have told you that these are some of the principles which will help to understand the management. But apart from this, management, the principle of management are like, you see this, as I have told you earlier, hierarchy is the principle of management. Hierarchy chain of command. Okay? When you see this division of labor, division of labor, okay, you have another principle, centralization. At the same time, you also see that delegation of authority. Coordination. Division of labor. Coordination. Yeah.
Can you repeat the full form of no POS? Planning, organization,
Planning, organization, stuffing, stuffing, stuffing. This is the D stands for direction, CO stands for coordination, R stands for reporting, and B stands for budgeting. Okay, so you understood? This is the Luther-Gully definition of management. But apart from that, at different periods of time, we have found different principles of management, and this principle based on the hierarchy. So you get to see this hierarchy is reflected in the Scalar principle. Now this is a different principle provided by the Luther Gully. This is a concept of a principle. This concept of Postdoc is the DCORD provided by Luther Gully. We also have a Scalar principle. Scalar principle of management, and this is based on scale. You know, and when you talk about the scale, scale is equivalent to meter, and this scale is meant by hierarchy. Now, what is the hierarchy? Hierarchy of authority. Sorry? One point is centralization plus delegation of authority. Now, let me take a division of labor. Number 5 is centralization. Coordination. Coordination. You also you can write control. Control is also
then the fifth point is delegation of minority.
authority. Which one? Authority. Authority. You cannot delegate minority here. But we will come out from those concepts, marginalization and minority. Here we are focusing on managerial principles. Okay. So when we are talking about the Scalar, this is the Scalar principle. You have a diagram to look at. So here actually you see this is a kind of pyramid. Scalar principle center top is always heavy and it is also very centralized. Hierarchy and centralization are the two components of this Scalar principle. So you actually see this top is very pointed. So all the power is concentrated and also retained at the top. So as it comes, it is divided into two. So gradually the weight of power has been expanded. Okay. And then again you see at point A, point B, point C, you see that weight, that the level of power has been more expanded. And at the base, you see like that way, at the base, you have more expansion of power. So this is a formal structure of organization. Okay. Rules and regulation is another component. Okay. Hierarchy, unity of command. So everything is related. Coordination, division of labor, then control. Then you see this rules and regulations, bureaucratic order, fixing of the responsibilities, as I have already told you. These are some of the components of management. So in every organization, you will get to see, in every formal organization, you get to see this kind of Scalar principle structure. So management is there, which is actually concentrated at the top, and then it is gradually expanded, and base is spanned across, and where there are different heads. You cannot even see their power heads, but authorities have been delegated. Now, this concept will give you an idea Right. Authority is not power because authority is an institutional right which is conferred upon the chair. An institutional right or institutional power which is conferred upon the person. Okay, so authority is always de facto, it exists by law. So you actually see the person is a figurehead, he might be a figurehead or she might be a figurehead. So take decisions because some authority is being given upon and trusted upon him, and that makes his ability to entrusting responsibility, ability to granting the authority to someone else is also legitimate. But when you are talking about this power, power is something which is a de jure concept. Okay, no, sorry, de facto concept. So when you are talking about this power, it is exist in fact. It is exist in fact, not necessarily that it can be found in one institutions. It is much more related to individual instead of the chair. So authority is related to the chair, but power is not related to the chair. Power is related to the individual, and he retains those power maybe from different external factors, from even peers, from the bottom, he can retain that power. But authority is associated with the chair. His position changes, the position changes, the chair changes, the power also change. Okay, authority also change. It is also a power, legitimate power, which is given by the institution. Hence, it is called institutional power. But when you are talking about the power as such, power it is very inconspicuous, and it is indefinite. It doesn't have a structure, but in authority you have a structured set of rules, regulations, some kind of defined rule. So definite role are there, responsibilities are there which you are supposed to perform. But in power you do not have a definite roles, responsibilities to perform. So there's a inconspicuous relationship with a lot of, you see, notes from where you can take the power. And it is not that this changes, the chair changes, position changes, your power will also change, because it is related to individual. Okay, so that these are two concepts, and power is always associated with leadership, let me tell you. So leaders are different from administrators as well as, you see, managers. Okay, so here what is the difference? I'll say what is the basic difference between leader and a manager. It is also said that manager administers. So here are some kind of confusion you might arise when I say that administration is different, management is different. Because administration is doing is not doing. Basically, administration is thinking. It is much about determination of something or determination of some act, while management is doing of that determined act. Okay, so it is all about doing. Management is doing. It is also largely constitute of this middle level and lower level task, whereas administration constitute the top level task, and it is much more related to thinking and deciding. So administration takes care of public opinion, unlike management. But in management, you won't get to see taking care of public opinion. It's all about fulfillment of the objective and work in line with the objective and the policy which is already stated. Right. But when you talk about the difference between the manager and the leader, here power and authority, these are the concepts related to Scalar principle. So it is a hierarchy. If you understand the hierarchy, you need to understand the authority. You need to understand delegation of authority. And when you understand the delegation of authority, you have to be very clear about what is authority, what is power. So power is an ability to persuade something to act in a particular way. That persuasion comes from coercion, ability to induce someone to act in a particular way. So that is the power. And based on that ability, you might have reference power, you might have expert power, you might also have legitimate power, you might have kind of punishment power. Reference power will increase when, suppose, it is always a relational concept. Rajashree and Shahin. Suppose power, it is a relational concept. If I say A and B, reference power of Sahin will increase if you try to imitate Sahin. Right. Reference expert power of your Rajashree is increase if Sahin acknowledge that you have knowledge in that. So that is a concept of power, and also reward power of you say dic- Drishti will reward power of Drishti will increase when Drishti will uh, give you some reward, and you are also giving a compliance to Drishti, which regard to some of the benefits that you might receive from Drishti. Okay, so third reward power will increase because you are complying to her decision, complying to her attentions, and also her aspiration, thinking that you will be rewarded. Okay, punishment power of me will increase if you do some act. Okay, thinking that ma'am will give us, otherwise ma'am will give us punishment, like that way. So, you see, power concept is also relational, but when you are talking about authority, you do have the vested, like vested legitimate power to make someone do certain task. Okay, so uh, power and authority are relatable, but at the same time, power is indefinite, right? So when you are talking about this delegation of authority, in delegation of authority is a concept of are you okay? Then should be switched off. No. When you see delegation, when you talk about this delegation of authority, when authority is being contrasted upon to the subordinate by the superior in order to integrate the relationship between the superior and the subordinate. So a concept is involved integration of relationship between the superior and the subordinate. So that is what the delegation of authority. So this is a very important principle in organization. So in each and every organization, you will get to see delegation of authority is being administered, and it is a process. At times it is a process of management, and it is a very technique of management, unlike the philosophy of management like decentralization. So we also have a philosophy of management that is called decentralization. Okay, decentralization is different from delegation, I tell you, because decentralization is basically dispersion of authority to local level without having any kind of like responsibility retained at the top level. But in delegation of authority, responsibility is already retained by the top managers. Are you getting? So while delegating the authority, top managers will not be giving away all the responsibilities to the subordinates or lower level. Okay, they are delegating the authority to reduce the burden and get rid of some of the loads, and also to have a smooth functioning of these organizations, or in a way to motivate the members, subordinate. So there are different merits of delegation of authority. It's not like that delegation of authority is simply a principle which has to be there, and that's why it has been exercised in an organization. There are some merits of delegation of authority, and it is the very basic principle of this color. That's basic you see tenets of or features of this color principle. So here also top level, as you can see, is hierarchy at the same time, but authorities have been delegated, and that's how base is being extended. So at different levels, authority is being delegated. Now you see, when authority is being delegated, means granting of authority is also associated with accept expectation of fulfilling the responsibility, and also entrusting the accountability. So this is very, very important. So there are certain concepts: see, authority, power, responsibility, and accountability. Can you tell me the differences between this concept? How accountability is different from responsibility? How authority is different from responsibility? And how authority is different from power? Which I have already told you, how authority is different from power. But when you say responsibility, how responsibility is different from accountability, and how authority is different from responsibility. Can you deliberate on this line?
The responsibility responsibilities are more like tasks or activities that the authority has, and uh, accountability is being answerable or being responsible for those
Right.
tasks.
Much more close to Risti. Yeah. Akas?
Responsibility is something which should come from within. For example, suppose you are doing some work, that responsibility, that accountability should have from within. Accountability is something that external, which you have to answer your necessity. The external force is which you have to answer to someone.
External force. Not
That
necessarily.
particular mountain you have to answer for accountable to what you do.
Answerable is right. Okay. Any concept? Hmm? Anything you want to add? Okay. So when you are talking about the authority is basically your legitimate power, right? When you say responsibility, responsibility is related to performance of duty, simply. Your responsibility to perform the duty. So when entrusting the authority to you, when delegating the authority to you, you are also expected to perform the duty which you are being given. So that is the responsibility. So along with the delegation of authority, responsibility is also being conferred or entrusted. Accountability is also being carried out. Accountability means when you are answerable for your performance, for the effort, when you are susceptible to make the superior have a review on your effort. So you say, "No, I did that." Somebody meant you did not do. No, I did that. So these are the proof. We want proof. No, I did this. So that is accountability. Okay, so you will make superior, you will make yourself subject to superior's review. So that is what is accountability. The superior can make you answerable, at the same time you are answerable for your effort, answerable for your commitment, answerable for your uh, that duty which is performed. But when you say responsibility is all about performing the duty and giving the performance at one standard. So while you talk about delegation of authority, what is important, let me tell you, is setting the standard of performance. Because delegation of authority is always it comes along with expectation of performance of duty, right? And you are also trying to, you see, conferring the authority, making someone, allowing hire and fire, making someone spending the budget. So that is also delegating the authority. I am the superior. Suppose I am also delegating my authority to someone, delegating my authority to Lija, and let Riza take decision about spending of money. Let Lija take decision about hiring and firing someone. So that is the responsibility which is also offered and contrasted to Lija, and Lisa is answerable for her every act and action as well as effort to fulfill the responsibility. Okay, and I have to have some standards set that these are the standard you need to meet so that your action can also get a justification. Your action can get a justification. Your action gets a justification because I have already set a standard. Okay, so it is very, very important setting a standard of responsibility for delegation of authority. So in that scholar, in that pyramid based on Scalar principle. So first is hierarchy. Hierarchy of authority is related to centralization of this power basically. That hierarchy, it is basically a hierarchy, it shows, right? And it also shows the power has been delegated at its level. And there are you cannot even say that there are multiple heads of power. Multiple heads of power created, but not necessarily that uh, they do not have any interaction with the top. Are you getting? Unlike the decentralization of power or decentralization of authority. So when you are talking about decentralization, in centralization you retain the power, retain all the power. And in decentralization you disperse the power to semi-autonomous unit. And these autonomous unit not necessarily have a direct interaction with the central component, with the heads, with the superior, But in delegation of authority, the power uh, to which it is bestowed upon is supposed to have a direct interaction to the one who has vested upon him power to him. So that integral relationship between superior and subordinate is established by delegation of authority, which is not there in decentralization of authority. We are talking about this in a feudal structure. Decentralization of power structures make one particular state highly autonomous and semi-autonomous. In a feudal structure, we get to see this, right? And most of the time this regional that is a state and a power, even this local panchayat is not subject to report to even this uh, block level office or district magistrate. So they do have that much of power to take any decision at the village level. So Gaugura is very powerful to take certain decision at local level. So that power is vested upon through decentralization of power, not delegation of authority. That is decentralization of power. Okay, but delegation of authority is a concept, is a technique of management which is there in a formal organization which make the relation between superior and subordinate integral. So if you look at the merits of delegation of authority, you can tell me first it will motivate the juniors also subordinate to take decisions. At the same time, it will also relieve the burden of the uh, superior, right? It will also, you see, at the same time make the organization functioning well, right? Uh, but at the same time, you can also see delegation of authority will be successful when there is a compliance and acceptance. Now, this is very, very important. Suppose authority is there, if authority is not accepted. Chester Bernard has provided uh, uh, four criteria of acceptance of authority. Chester Bernard has provided four criteria. So he has provided four criteria of these four criteria are respectively. First one is when communication is properly carried out, appropriately carried out from down upward to downward. Second is that when uh, interests are personal interests are also met with the interest of the authority and organization. And when third one is when the interests are in relation to organizational goal. Okay, and that can create a kind of favorable, let me tell you, a favorable environment. First is that when communication is proper and appropriate, and when you see the interest of the person to whom the authority is being delegated is consistent with the purpose of the organization as well as the interest of the authority person, and also compliance to the authority when you see that the interest is in line with the organizational goal. Are you getting? So organizational goal is one, and some people you see habitually accept the authority. At times you see there are people habitually accept the authority with regard to like an acceptance of some of the expectation of this reward. You accept the authority expectation of reward or fear of punishment, or also might think that it is an easy way out to accept the authority. Okay, and also the fear of getting criticism if they don't accept the authority. Like habitually they accept the authority. So it is good in terms of delegation of authority. And when you are talking about this concomitant to this organizational goal, which is very, very important related to delegation of authority, because it is related to organizational goal. So whatever task I'm going to delegate to you, it is also related to organizational goal. So fulfillment of organizational goal. And when it is related to the interest of those people whom the task is being delegated, their interest is also being taken care of. Okay, so this three, another one is there forward. This principle, basically these are three principles which are very very important in terms of delegation. Have a successful attempt of delegation of authority, because many a time delegation of authority may not be that successful. Right, because you see that responsibility is something which is always downward, responsibility is not upward. But delegation of authority is, delegation of authority is downward, responsibility of authority is always upward. Okay, so when you say upward, upward in the sense responsibility can comes from the bottom to top. And delegation of authority is downward, it will always come from top to bottom. Okay, so this is important, and what is actually required, Chester Barnard also said that for effective management, there has to be an equilibrium between, you see, contribution, contribution and reward, you know. So when you say contribution, sorry, there has to be equilibrium between contribution and reward. The contribution, that your effort, how it is being rewarded. Yeah. So it is important. I get it. Understanding?
Rewarded contribution.
Okay. So let me tell you that in relation to it, there are also concepts like leadership. No. So leadership is different from management to certain extent, because leader usually maintains, and when we say management or managers, they administers here. As I have told you, they administer, and he or she administers here. And here we get to see that a leader always challenges the status quo, but a manager will not challenge the status quo. Okay, so that is the difference, and also there is another difference is that a leader will try to ask question what has happened and why has happened, but a manager will look for when it has happened and how it has happened. Okay, so you also get to find the quality and attribute of the person, because leader will try to look into the factor, how, why it has happened, and what stimulate an event or any practices to happen. But when you talk about the management or a manager, they will ask about the time factor, when it has happened, because time is everything for management. Okay, and how it has happened. Okay, they will not give that much weightage to y factor. And it is also said that manager always imitates and copy, but leader will not imitate. Leader will be very very original and try to execute his own idea. Okay, so leader will challenge the status quo also. This is not good, this is not in right order, they will challenge it, but a manager will never challenge the status quo, because he has a goal to fulfill some of the stated objective and the principles, and in a time bound framework, and he will work in that line only. Okay, so these are some of the difference. Now when we are talking about delegation of authority, authority is something which is related to managers, and power is something which is related to leader. Okay, so there are different attributes a leader could have. A leader is supposed to be wise, supposed to have wisdom, integrity, supposed to have that mental and physical aptitude, mental aptitude to take decisions, physical aptitude, have energy to, like, work uh, for certain period of time. without getting exhaustion. Okay, and there are also different attributes which I'll discuss later. But when you talk about the different leadership qualities, no, it is important to understand because in one organization you will find different types of leadership. Like you have a benevolent authoritative leadership, you might have a autocratic authoritative leadership. These two types of leadership are different: benevolent authoritative and autocratic authoritative. You also have a consultative leadership, you have a participatory leadership, you might have a developmental type of leadership, you might have a feudal type and patrimonial type of leadership. You have a creative leadership, you have a situational leadership, you also have a self assertive leadership. Okay, you have a manipulative leadership. So there are different kind of leadership you will get to see in one organization, and this style of leadership, these various types of leadership will vary from organization to organization, from situation to situation. Okay, so in one organization you might also get to execute two three kind of leadership style. And earlier it is said that some leaders are born leaders. So leadership, like a great man theory of leadership, there are also theories which will uh, help you to understand the leadership uh, phenomenon. Now, when we are talking about the leadership, we have a theory, great man theories of leadership, equivalent to that visionary, that is what volun- voluntarism. You have already acquainted with those theories of voluntarism. No, that visionary voluntarism is equated to great man theory of leadership when there are people who are born leader. They do not need any trade. They do not need any leadership attribute to learn because they are born leader. Then we have a trait theory of leadership which is equivalent to professional voluntarism. So trait theory of leadership said that certain characteristics, certain features of leadership can be learned and earned through practices, earned through training even, and it can be learned. So trait theory of leadership is outdated nowadays because you see, because of the complexity of organization, because of the interaction of organization to the external environment, as I have told you. Now we are talking more about the ecological approach, which I have discussed in the last class, where we give emphasis on the organizational history, the history of the locality, stability of one political government in that geography, in that region. We talk about different policies, the tariff policies, taxation policies, policies related to the movement of capital. We also have we also need to understand the the nature of competitors and success story of the competitors, their strategy of execution of stuff. So everything comes under the external factors, which will be studied in ecological approach of the management, as well as the socio-cultural factors like the culture of the community, the ethnicity, the religiosity of this community. Okay, you have to be very sensitive to the religion, to the this ethnic attributes of one particular community, literacy of that community, and they're susceptible to change their view. To what extent they can change themselves, whether they will resist the change or not. So these are some of the external factor which are very important to to understand the management of one organization, and that too from ecological perspective. So in that line, if we look at the leadership function, okay, leadership cannot be based on trait leadership that you will, I will teach you these are some of the function. I cannot make you attain wisdom, I cannot make you be judgmental, I cannot even make you to be to be irresponsible citizens, or maybe one which has a very high level of mental aptitude. Okay, so there are, or cannot make you to be very, make you to maintain integrity. So this is something which you actually learn through experience. Okay, so trait theory of leadership is nowadays outdated. Okay, so great man theory of leadership is still there, but trait theory of leadership is outdated. And now we also have a part goal theory of leadership. They believe in basically related to this ecological and human relation approach to management. Last time I have told you human relation basically looks at the informal relationship as well as you see this social capital, the bonding, the belongingness of the person, hmm, who are networked, who are wired within the organization, in the set of organization, outside this organization. You will study those relations. So group communication has been studied invariably, so everywhere. So you are also studying group communication. The public sphere has been studied. So in the way a group is using this online even mechanism, so online technologies, evolving digital technology to achieve their objective. So many research are being taken in that line. So when you are talking about these leadership qualities, now we are talking about particle theory of leadership, which gives us four different varieties of leadership, like supportive leadership, instrumental leadership, achievement oriented leadership, and participatory leadership. Supportive leadership, when a leader is uh, taking care of the needs of the subordinate, uh, or his colleague, or his fellow friends. So it's very, very important taking care of the need and concern, and also support him at his or her, see, bad times, you might say. That is a kind of supportive leadership you get to see everywhere. So it is also important to inculcate that trait, but it is something which cannot be taught. So it comes to you. Then we instrumental kind of leadership, asking what do you expect from me? What do you expect? Whether I will deliver in that line or not. First asking the expectation of yours, and then set the goal and deliver in that line. So this is very, very important now, instrumental kind of leadership. Achievement oriented leadership. Also, you set a benchmark for the subordinate, you set a benchmark for the colleague, for a friend, for fellow members, and inspire change, inspire pride, inspire uh, best performance in them, and get the best out of it. So this is also related to transformational leadership. So now we believe in transactional leadership and transformational leadership. Okay, so transactional leadership is is basically a quality when you search for the deviation, search for a kind of drift and shift from the rules and regulations, and then correct it. But at the same time, you also always uh, give reward for best performance, or give compensation for immediate dispensation of any task. So this is what a transactional leadership. But you see, at the same time, transactional leadership can be an autocratic leadership at its extreme point. But here you get to see exchange of leader follower rules. But it is there in every organizations and in our day to day dealing. Suppose I am giving a book, for even for publications. Okay, so sometimes you see that how leadership is transactions. At the same time, I'm the one who is proofreading the book, but at the same time, while proofreading the book, so I have noticed the changes and I have corrected it. On their part, also two three changes they have highlighted. Suppose the Chaudhary and Chaudhary, that spelling, and two three they have also highlighted. So this task has been exchanged, you know. So exchange of this leader follower rules and exchange of the task is also a kind of transaction, which is there everywhere. So you all are leader. Now you also see at certain situation your leadership qualities might also come up. It is also said, you see, there is a Likert theory of leadership. It usually said that under certain situation, leadership qualities come up. Leadership qualities come up in the sense you see that in extreme favorable condition or in an extreme unfavorable condition, we need a very hard nosed kind of leadership and task directed leadership, it is said. Extreme favorable and extreme unfavorable condition. But in a moderately favorable and moderately unfavorable condition, we need a benevolent and lenient and laissez-faire kind of leadership. You know, so this is also said because it is not about good leaders or bad leaders. There are not leaders, there are good or bad leaders. It is all about whether situation is favorable or not. If situation is favorable, he can perform effectively. If situation is not favorable, he cannot perform effectively. But that qualities can be instilled through even training, even through giving him or her exposure to certain situation. Because not everybody can be a born leader like Mahatma Gandhi, or you see Ambedkar, or that is Nelson Mandela. So, great leader. Nelson Mandela is a great leader, right? So, like that. Jawaharlal Nehru, even Narendra Modi is also leader, but it's not. Okay. So that is Jawaharlal Nehru. Indira Gandhi was a great leader. So she is known as the power of Shakti. So you see, but when we study the qualities of prime ministerial candidate, we usually study their leadership qualities, you know. But it is also said Indira Gandhi is equally despotic also. Rajiv Gandhi is also equally autocratic. So, not despotic, Indira Gandhi is totalitarian, not despotic, totalitarian. So, her rule was a bit totalitarian. It is different from despot, from being a despot. Okay, so here we also see, but she is a great leader. Okay. So, from a Gungi Guriya, which she was termed, of Lammohan Ruhia, she has emerged, like Indira Gandhi has emerged to be a supreme leader. She was earlier called Gungi Guriya because she did not speak much. But later she has emerged to be a leader of the country and single most. Like in that female prime ministerial candidate, nobody could beat her. Okay. And her strategy in terms of international relation is something nobody could beat till now. So we see that it is very very important. It is not in terms of leadership qualities are important for each and every person. Not it is not simply relatable to a prime ministerial candidate or a politician. So you also need to know this. Now you see in a hard knocks condition, sorry, in a favorable condition, it is very very important to have a task directed and hard knocks leadership. When you say you have a favorable condition, that means your task, the assigned tasks are structured. When you are accepted by all, and the kind of task which is assigned to you are very very structured, and the roles and position is also very definite, then the condition is favorable to you and you are accepted by each and everyone. But it also leads to a very hard nosed kind of approach if you are lenient at that point of time. So situation may also fall down to moderately favorable. In an extreme unfavorable condition, you are not accepted by anyone. Task is also not defined properly, very unstructured task, what is being assigned. Role responsibilities are not fixed and defined. Then also you need to be a very hard-nosed kind of approach, very strict, it is said. But if a moderately favorable, somebody is accepting, somebody not accepting like that, then you can be lenient, it is said. That it's a liquor kind of leadership. Okay. Now we also have a benevolent authoritative. Benevolent authoritative is different. This is a paternalistic kind of authority. Paternalistic kind of authority is very, very, you see, successful in country like Japan. We had a feudal kind of authority. You see. We had a feudal kind of authority. In feudal kind of authority, which is also say a kind of autocratic authority instead of democratic. But a feudal and paternalistic kind of authority both can come under the benevolent authoritative rule, where there is a father and son kind of situation emerges, and leader think that I am the father and boss like I know everything, and he or she is supposed to follow me, but at the same time he or she also give regard to the opinion of the others, and some kind of task is also delegated, but his responsibility is not erased out in that condition. Okay, so it is not like as a subordinate you cannot even take part in a decision. You can take part in a decision by asking his permission. That benevolent authority is there in our university also. This is called benevolent authoritative that we see. You get to find the qualities, and then you can name the kind of authority. Benevolent authoritative. Consultative, that is another quality of leadership. Consultative leadership. Consultative leadership usually seek opinion and ideas from the subordinate fellow colleagues, and also you see these members of that organization on every occasion, and try to create participation of all, and also make them to take decision, and at the same time help to boost the self-image morals of the subordinates. So this is very very, like, nowadays very uh, evolving kind of leadership qualities, consultative kind of leadership, which is equivalent to democratic characteristics. So we prefer this kind of leadership qualities. Okay, so instead of taking decision himself or herself, or instead of taking decision myself, I will actually consult with all of you. Then I will take the decision. So this is an evolving, more democratic kind of leadership according to Likert. But earlier we had a, like, authoritative, highly authoritative leadership, and that is called traditional leadership. And few people say that it is also related to charismatic leadership. Max Weber has a different definition of authority. He said that there are three kind of, like, leadership which is seen. One is charismatic, one is traditional, and one is legal bureaucratic. So legal bureaucratic leadership is an impersonal order which is dictated by rules and regulation, by system of rules and regulation. Okay, which is told by Max Weber. So you are there because law has entrusted you that responsibility. So de jure authority, that is an authority only. So this is a bureaucratic type, because there are certain responsibilities fixes up. Demerits is that you won't feel like to assume responsibility beyond the assigned responsibilities. But you know your roles and responsibilities. Clearly, there is no confusion in it. Okay, so that is one thing. But when you were talking about the charismatic leadership are also there, like a Messiha. In students also you get to see charismatic leaders. Student leaders, most of the time there are student leaders which are, a few leaders are charismatic. Kanhai Kumar is charismatic leadership. So charisma is there. Many people, Modi is also, it is said that it's a charismatic leadership. Also that image has been created. It is all about image. He said that charisma is there, but image has been created. But if that image could be created for Rahul Gandhi, he could be also a charisma. It's all about creation of that image. Okay, so we won't go that idealistic or even ideology, political affiliation should not come in. We should also be neutral. And neutrality is always good. I want you to be neutral rather than getting affiliated to any kind of political ideology. But you see nowadays, so it is more about tit for tat kind of situation has come up. Right? Like it has automatically come up. Tit for tat. You're giving me, I'll also give you this. So I'm not like a Mahatma Gandhi. So if you are slapping me, I'm not going to, like, give you my another stick to slap. So I'm also give you another bump like that. So that kind of situation has come. Hmm. So in that situation, it's very very important to understand the role of the leadership. So creative leadership is one leadership who usually do not work much, equivalent to consultative leadership, and we want fellow members to work. At the same time, it always inspires them, always boost their self-image, and also set a benchmark for performances, and also give tips how to improve the performance, and suggest how to improve the performance. So this is a very evolving kind of leadership. At the same time, situational leadership is important. In emergency situation, you go to a community, so you cannot come out as a situational leadership. You see a community member can emerge out who can tackle the whole community instantly. So that is a situational leadership. Or in certain situations, certain person come up. So suppose in an institution there is a head, he know how to take care of the students and this even other fellow colleagues. But in certain situation which is very unfavorable, unfavorable, the hostile situation come up, they said that I'm not going to listen to it and listen to them. So usually suppose a group of students listen to HOD, but in certain situation they are not listening to HOD. There, in that case, some situational leadership might come up, maybe another colleague intervene who is very close to those group of students and can intervene. Situational leadership comes up, so you also need to identify the leadership quality of a few people. So then that also that actually comes up your understanding of the situation, analysis of the situation. And at times as a head, what you can do, what I can do or he can do, is that okay, you go and control this situation because it is going out of my hand, it's getting out of my hand, you go and control the situation. So I also know that he or she has that situational leadership qualities because he has that amities, he has that amity with the students. So it's important. Okay. So like that way, so in delegation of authority, so leadership quality is very very important. So delegation is different from decentralization. Let me tell you, because in delegation to have a successful delegation, it's very very important to understand the aptitude level of the subordinate. In delegation of authority only, you get to find the word like superior and subordinate, but this word like superior and subordinate are not entertained in decentralization of authority and the power. But in delegation of authority in organizational that structures, we always use this word superior and the subordinates. Okay, so here you a subordinate is supposed to get acquainted by the organizational goal and what is expected out of him. It's very very important, and also to understand the standard and benchmark of performance. And superior is also supposed to deliver and communicate the goal of the organization to subordinate very effectively, as well as know the level and aptitude level, mental aptitude level, physical aptitude of the subordinate, whether he or she could perform that task or not. Because at times what happened, you also know that the legitimacy and acceptance is at times habitual. It at times may also come up out of this fear of being criticism. And why you do accept authority? Because it is an easy way out to accept the decision of the authority and not to even take the responsibility to take the decision, because you let him or her take the decision, so it is a easy way out. Or if we take the decision, I might or he might be also criticized, right? So this is a way out. Or also I lack confidence, that's why even if authority is delegated, I am not going to take this decision. That kind of attitude is being seen most of us, even most of you also. It is an easy way out to give someone else to take, because aptitude level is not matched, and many a time aptitude level is not matched with at par my expectation. Okay, hence it is also very very important for me, if I am the leader, I am the one who is delegating the authority, to know your aptitude level, because these are some of the habitual circumstances that you might fear of criticism, of taking some decision and fulfilling the expectations. You might be very confused what is the task. You might also be uh, thinking that we will not take the decision, let him or her take the decisions, it is easy way out. So, and also you might feel that this is an excessive load on my part. I'm already having so many tasks to finish, so I'm not going to take another load or extra load to finish. So we know these habitual circumstances. Based on this, it is important to, on a part of superior, to delegate the authority. Right, and at times authority may not also be interested to delegate the part of it. When authority is not interested to delegate the part of responsibility, the conferring of accountability to, or even this entrusting of authority to subordinate, when it is very very important, delegation of authority is very very important, but at times authority feels that subordinate cannot do the task better than him, the way it should be done. So he or she will not delegate the authority. Many a time he might or she might have a kind of apprehension that his or her inefficiency might also get exposed, and that's why he or she may not delegate the task. Okay, and sometimes it might also happen that he might not have any confidence on the subordinate, and that's why, so like they will not be performing this task properly, or it is also very difficult to giving a brief to the subordinate. So instead of giving a brief to the subordinate, I will take the task. Hence, in one particular organization, this integration between superior and subordinate is very very important, and delegation of authority is must for smooth functioning of, you see, smooth functioning of management, because it is a technique of management, unlike the principle of management, which is decentralization of authority. That is a not sorry principle, philosophy of management. But here delegation of authority is a technique, it is must. But you also know how to delegate, and when to delegate, and also in what way to delegate. And before delegating, like, you need to know this aptitude level, you need to know the situation, so it is important. Okay, so that is one part of this principle. Okay, so there are repetitions also.